These children from Sierra Leone were supposed to each be fed a small meal of bread and cheese by missionaries, but they ran out of food. Every day, millions of people, men, women, children, experience the look on these faces, and they die from it. Not only in third world countries like this, but everywhere. Everywhere, millions are experiencing the injustice of hunger, the pain of hunger, the emptiness. 870 million people in the world are hungry. Hunger is an epidemic that covers the entirety of the globe. While the world produces more than enough food to feed everyone, every year, hunger kills more people than AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. It is an epidemic brought on by poverty, natural disaster, war, and poor agricultural infrastructure. Third world countries are often thought of when one imagines hunger, and in places like Sierra Leone, Haiti, and India, millions are dying each year due to the long-term effects of starvation and malnutrition. Malnutrition is the lack of proper nutrients and minerals that can become so severe that bones become very brittle. A malnourished person finds that their body has trouble growing resistance to hunger and disease.
There's a difference between undernutrition and malnutrition. And undernutrition, there's 870 million people in the world that are undernourished, and that's when you're not getting adequate calories for your minimal physiologic needs. And that's like over half of that is in Asia and Africa.
While third world countries are often thought of when one imagines hunger, it is also happening here in the United States, a country that is considered one of the most prosperous. It's happening in Iowa, and it's happening in the Cedar Valley.
I'm going to sound awful when I say it, but it's almost a worse problem here, because when you go overseas and you go to third world countries, they genuinely don't have the food. Here, we have the food, it's just not getting to the families sometimes who need it most.
There's still so many people that do not make a living wage. And there has been research done specifically in our community, as there has been across the nation, as to what it takes to have a living wage. A living wage will cover your transportation costs, it will cover your basic housing needs, it will cover your food, really any other piece, if you have children, it'll cover diapers. It's all those pieces that need to be in place, and it really is estimated in Blackhawk County that the living wage is actually $16 an hour.
The food is here, it's just not getting to people. It's high priced, it's a little bit out of reach.
The primary government action affecting hunger is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. This was formerly known as food stamps and is our nation's first line of defense against hunger. This federal aid program, administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, is made available to families and individuals with incomes below 130% of the poverty line.
A very large portion, over $600 billion of the $969 billion in the Farm Bill, the proposed Farm Bill, is set aside for SNAP.
Food stamps is a state-run program. Participants apply through the Department of Human Services, and they check things like people's finances and household size. They check things like assets as far as how much things people have are valued. It can be a car, it can be bank accounts, and then depending on how much finances folks have and the family size, they get a certain amount of food stamps each month. It's up to the family to balance those food stamps and budget them out through the whole month, which can be very hard depending on a family's situation.
Due to the lack of restriction on foods available for purchase by SNAP, the food that is most often bought is not healthy foods like produce and meat, but unhealthy items like soda and chips. When unhealthy food is consumed, dietary illnesses like heart disease and diabetes are developed. Those on the SNAP program are unable to pay for the medical care they need.
I mean, the majority of the United States diet consists of really unhealthy foods and processed foods and soda, and I mean, we just intake these things and it's like a country of overabundance, but we're all starving because our cells aren't getting filled with nutrients that we need. And so we have things like chronic disease.
It can eventually affect your internal organs if you're not getting the nutrients that you need and proper protein and carbohydrates.
Because there are so many families relying on the SNAP program, those with children in school are also forced to accept free and reduced lunch. In 2012, the total number of students receiving free or reduced lunch in the U.S. was over 19 million. In Iowa, that number is over 200,000.
In the Waterloo School District, between 10 and 11,000 children on an annual basis. Of that, as you look at free and reduced lunches that are available to these children, it runs about 66%. So if you were to do, any of the simplest of math, if you have 10 children, 6 to 7 of them are going to be considered eligible for food.
Thankfully, many nonprofit organizations across the United States and Iowa are dedicated to helping those struggling with hunger and poverty. The Cedar Valley United Way in Waterloo, Iowa, for example, supports area initiatives and agencies that work to provide for those in need.
We do fund nutrition programs and nutrition for elderly population, nutrition for children, all the way across. As we collect the resources, we do make sure that they end up in programs that will include food in their programs.
The Cedar Valley United Way provides funding toward the Northeast Iowa Food Bank. They work with approximately 200 member agencies to distribute food throughout 16 counties in Northeast Iowa, serving at least 40,000 individuals.
Food banking started when a small food pantry couldn't handle a tractor-trailer load of product, but if you bring it in and bank it, many organizations can have access to it. So really we're a clearinghouse, but in the process our food bank has also started programs to directly impact hunger in Northeast Iowa as well.
There are hundreds of local food pantries located around Iowa, but food banks are regional distributors of food to families and individuals in need.
While our food pantry, which serves predominantly Black Hawk County, is serving about 1,200 families every month. The average visit by any one family is usually about 4 times a year, even though they could come once a month if they wanted to.
Typically, when families that rely on food stamps are running low on their monthly balance, they turn to their local food bank or pantry.
The average, person that comes in the food pantry is somebody that either is working and is just underemployed, or if they're not working, there's a reason that they're not working.
Another place that those struggling with hunger and poverty can turn to in the Cedar Valley is the Salvation Army, located in Waterloo, Iowa. Monday through Friday, a noon meal is served free of charge to anyone who needs it. This organization has been doing this for 40 years. They serve 160 to 180 people each day.
Somebody is needing a sandwich or something like that, we have a table before we start our meal that we fill these up with the donations, and they're welcome to take 1 to 2 items per day. We also have what is called our Martin Brothers, or our giveaway program, which is out in the back of the building. That runs from noon to 1, Monday through Friday. That is another place where they can get fresh produce, fresh vegetables, fruits, sweets, breads, sometimes meats, cheeses, whatever we get. The food bank supplies some of the donations as well. So whatever the food bank brings us is usually what we have in our giveaway program for the day.
Frank Heim comes to the Salvation Army to receive a meal when he needs it.
There's been times I've been hungry, so I would go to get like emergency assistance and get like a food box, because I had that when I wasn't on an EBT card. So, but now I am on an EBT card, and then now I don't have to do that so much no more.
Due to a motorcycle accident that killed his wife and injured his back and leg, he is unable to find work and struggles to pay for his apartment and food.
Really, nobody really can understand it unless they've lived that life and went through something like that. Where I lost my wife in the motorcycle accident by hit-and-run driver, and I was the driver of the motorcycle. It was their fault. Then they left the scene of the accident as well, and so I've been struggling for the last 2 years, and memories and my wife's belongings, and it's like just kind of like mind-boggling. But that's my biggest strength is putting everything on the Lord to give me strength day by day.
To change the state of hunger in the United States and abroad, there is a multitude of organizations like the Salvation Army and the United Way that rely on donations. Donate to your local food pantry or volunteer at a soup kitchen. But if nothing else, the pain of hunger can be eased by the giving of hope.
Well, I think just having an awareness that it's out there and that people are struggling right in our backyards. It's not the third world countries necessarily. There's people in Waverly that struggle with hunger. There's people in the Cedar Valley that struggle with hunger. And I think just bringing an awareness to that so that people who maybe are more fortunate or more blessed can maybe take steps to help fill the food pantries or serve in those soup kitchens or somehow reach out to help make a change and make a difference.
Having someone to kind of give you that hand up is very, very key, and many, many people in poverty do not have that. And all it takes is one minor thing, a dead battery on their car, a flat tire on their car, and pretty soon they give up. And it's not because they don't have character, it's just that they don't have the vision and they've never associated with other folks on a regular basis.
We're not here to judge them. We're here to give them a hand up instead of a hand out. So, because we know that everybody has pride. Doesn't matter what your income or your background is. Everybody likes to be treated with dignity.
Even though you don't have a job, even though you don't have food, you can share love. Love is free, And just to give somebody just a hug makes all the world. And when you go through something, when you go through trials and stuff, you can help somebody else get through it. I've been there, I've done that, I had a good job, I had a good position, and it was totally taken away.
We started coming down here and ministering to it. We've seen people like the desperation, in their lives. They're needing not just the food to feed them to be full, but actually a spiritual thing too, because people are looking for hope. A lot of people are broken in areas of their life, and like Lori said, they need somebody just to come around them, put their arm around them and tell them they love them.
Whether in the fields of Iowa or the slums of Africa, hunger affects all walks of life. Act today and become part of the movement to fill those who are empty with not only food, but hope.